My name is Lyndsey Locklear. I'm Queen City, USA 2026, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pageant Project. My guest for tonight is Lyndsey Locklear. As you heard, she is Miss Queen City USA 2026. I'm going to read out her bio that she's making me read out that she sent me. Lyndsey's going to get comfortable there whilst I read it out. All right, so Lyndsey is originally from Lumberton, North Carolina, and is a proud graduate of the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, where she earned both a Bachelor of Science in Biology and a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. She now resides in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she works as a traveling neonatal ICU nurse. In August, Lyndsey will begin pursuing her master's degree to become a neonatal nurse practitioner, continuing her commitment to improving outcomes for infants and families. A former Miss Lumbee, Lyndsey is currently representing the Queen City and will compete for the title of Miss North Carolina USA. As a proud member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, she hopes to become the first Indigenous woman crowned Miss North Carolina USA and to go on to represent the state at the Miss USA competition, inspiring young people to dream boldly and embrace their unique identities. Lyndsey has been dancing since the age of 2 and is trained in tap dance, a lifelong passion that has shaped her creativity and discipline. Outside of her career, she enjoys cooking, playing golf, creating new coffee recipes, and spending time in the gym. She is also deeply passionate about mental health advocacy and preserving her Indigenous culture. This passion inspired her to implement traditional Indigenous talking circles as a tool for emotional healing, creating safe spaces that encourage connection, vulnerability, and community. Did I miss anything, Lyndsey?
I think you got it all. I'm so sorry for making you read all that.
I think I'm going to have to start telling people whatever you send me is I'm going to read it out. So it's a lot. Let me ask you about the first thing, coffee recipes. Talk to me about new coffee recipes.
So I like to look up stuff on TikTok. Don't judge me, but I like to look to see if there's anything new. I keep coming back to the same recipes though. It's like honey, cinnamon, brown sugar, anything in that realm. You got me. I'm sold. But right now my coffee's kind of boring as I'm preparing to compete.
When you say boring, how boring are we? Because I take my coffee black. I know that's incredibly boring, but that's how I take it.
So I'm not quite at your level. I do have some almond milk in there, and that's about it.
Okay.
I sprinkle some cinnamon on there to spruce it up a little bit.
How is that boring? You're going almond milk and cinnamon, and that's boring?
But everybody has like the cold foams now and all the fun stuff. But it's all sugar. And I'm like, oh God, it looks fun, but I feel awful after.
Yeah, it looks fun, but it's also that point when you tell me you enjoy coffee, and I'm like, well, how much of your drink is actually coffee? Because 80 or 90% of it is foam and syrup. There's no coffee in it.
Do you like a coffee or a milkshake? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I've got no judgment, but if you tell me you like coffee, how about actually drinking coffee? You said that you're competing in how long? Next weekend?
Next weekend. I leave it's Thursday night. So Thursday next week, I'll be there and check-in will be Friday morning.
Right. Okay. So first questions first. How's the prep going? How are the nerves? All that jazz.
Not going to lie to you. I had a little mental breakdown about 2 weeks ago. Good. I had to make some phone calls. Everybody had to talk me off the ledge, which is fine. It usually happens. I'd rather it happened 2 weeks ago than like right now.
Yeah.
It could be worse. But mentally now, much better. I've been locked in on everything, especially fitness and modeling and trying to make sure I'm ready for stage and interview, doing mock interviews, all the things. But I feel a lot better now. I'm in a much better headspace. I'm feeling calm and ready.
I don't think anyone gets ready for a big pageant and doesn't have at least one
mental breakdown. Mental
breakdown.
When I say I woke up and thought the world was ending, I was like, I hate everything and I hate myself and I hate all my outfits. I hate everything. I was like, I can't look at myself. I'm over. I don't like any of this. And I was like, am I really going to compete in a couple weeks? And I feel like this. So everybody literally when I say talk me off the ledge, they really had to talk me off the ledge.
This seems like a slight overreaction. What, you just woke up one day and you decided you hated
No,
everything?
it sounds dramatic, but I promise you that's exactly how it happened. I woke up on a Monday morning and I said, I hate everything. And the world is
Did you
ending.
did you just not get your coffee that morning, or what happened?
I don't know what was going on with me. I was in a weird headspace. Thank God it's over, but that was not a fun morning for me. I made a lot of phone calls. But
Yeah, I'll be.
yeah, that's why it's important to have good people in your corner so they can talk you off those ledges. So
Right.
I'm happy
Okay,
about that.
so we're off the ledge now. We're locked in, hopefully. How
Yes.
are we feeling about it now, given that it's less than 2 weeks away?
I feel great. I feel like we could compete tomorrow and I'd be okay. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I feel positive, calm. I don't really have any nerves yet. I think I will have some fun, excited nerves maybe once we finally get to competition because
Right.
I like to compete. I enjoy it. I'm very competitive anyway. So I think I'll get a little bit of excited nerves, but those are never a bad thing to me.
Yeah, I mean, nervous and excitement are very, very close together emotionally. So,
Yeah, the
and
right
I'm very
I get
competitive
that.
as well. So I like getting ready for competition. How did you enter pageantry to begin with?
Ooh, that was a long, long time ago. So in my bio, you said that I was Miss Lumbee, but before that, I was also Little Miss Lumbee and Junior Miss Lumbee, which are ambassadors for my tribe. And they
Right.
also have a teen miss, but I kind of skipped that one. I was a little busy with competition dance. So I was like full force on that.
Yeah.
And I kind of left pageantry for a little bit and came back for Miss Lumbee. But I got started because my older cousin was Miss Lumbee the year before I competed for Little Miss. And I saw her compete and I thought she was the most amazing person I had ever seen. And I said, I have to do that. And I need to be on stage. For some reason, I've always loved the stage because I've been in dance since I was
Yeah.
2. So I said, any excuse to get me on stage, I'm I'm down for it. My parents didn't think I was going to do anything when I got on stage. They thought I was going to just, I don't know, stand there. I was 6 years old, so I was a baby thinking about it. But I did well and I won on my first try for Little Miss. And then I kind of caught
Wow.
that pageant bug and it's never left me since then.
I mean, that's what attracted you to pageantry. What kept you going in it?
I think it's if I think about my entire journey in pageantry, I can see the progress I've made, whether that's physically, mentally. I'm able to communicate my thoughts, stand in an interview room. It turns over to working in a job interview as well, which is probably how I got my first job out of college anyway. And
Right.
I just think about like the self growth that I had because pageantry has turned me into a completely different person than I think I would have been without it, which is
Right.
all good things. I'm just grateful for all the connections, the networking, everything I've been able to accomplish within pageantry.
Trace the journey. I know this might be complicated. It might be a
Hmm.
long story, but trace the journey for me. So you started dancing, I think, at the age of 2. I started the
Yes.
violin at the age of 2. So I can understand what it's like to start something very young, could barely walk, and you're
Yeah.
dancing.
And
I'm
I
thinking,
was obsessed with it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that happened. Then you entered pageants, and then
Hmm.
you did competitive dancing, took a break from pageants, and at some point you re-entered pageants. You're now working as a neonatal. It's a neonatal nurse. I don't want to get this wrong. Like a neonatal ICU nurse,
Yes. Correct.
right? Then you said you've learned a lot about yourself along the way. So
Hmm.
can you just trace that sort of journey for us from beginning at the age of 2 with your dancing, then going into pageants and taking a break, and then
Yeah.
etc. Because I'm curious as to how you've grown over that time.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, it's hard to remember way back then at the
Yeah.
age of 2, like walking into my first dance class. But I do have some memories of just falling in love with tap, which was always my favorite genre of dance. I kind of, I don't know, I just had a knack for it. Something about it clicked in my brain, and I was very good at it from an early age. And I think with that, it taught me some self confidence, of course,
Yeah.
a love for stage because we used to do dance recitals back when we were young before you got into competitive dancing. So that taught me that. But then once I got into the pageant side of things and kind of transitioned that dance, love for dance onto the stage for pageants, I think I developed a lot more discipline at a young age because I had to really work at it. And my mom was one of those, like, if you don't practice, I'm not putting in the effort for you. She was like, it's on you because you're the only one on stage. Like, I can't do it for you.
Yeah.
And she was always that type of mom. And she also was not one of those moms that would sugarcoat anything. If I did bad on one of my talents or did bad on something, she would look at me right in the eyes and say, that was not your best. You could do a lot better. And I vividly remember the week before, it was like the week of competition when I was about to compete for Junior Miss Lumbee. And it was a big time because I had come back for a second time because I lost the first time.
Right.
And I took about 3 years and then I came back and I was the oldest in the division. It was my very last chance to try. And the parents are allowed to come watch for like your talent to make sure everything's okay prior to the actual competition. So she came and she watched. I got off stage and she said, that's the worst you've ever danced. I said, I'm competing next week. Like on this stage, I will be on the stage competing in 5 days. And I don't know what it was, but it lit a fire under me. And I don't like being told I'm not good at something or I can't do something. I'm kind of stubborn in that way. So as soon as you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to have to do it to prove a point. So I proved my point. I won that pageant. And then we transitioned to kind of high school. It was a different time. I got into competitive dance, which was a lot for me. I loved it. I learned about teamwork, being on a team, having the responsibility of learning several dances and having to compete them every weekend. So there comes more discipline, having to balance a lot of things between schoolwork, dance competition, practices. It was a lot on my plate. So I learned how to time manage very young.
Yeah.
Which I think also helps later in life. With Miss Lumbee, I did that one, and my mom and family, they were behind me, of course, 100%. But because I was older and finally an adult, I was 21 when I competed. So I said, I'm going to do this my own way. And I want it to be authentically me when I compete. I don't want it to be too many opinions running around and trying to follow what everybody else is doing. I really wanted to compete as myself and win that way so that I knew I did it the right way. And I think with that, it gave me a lot of confidence with who I am. I learned how to interview because we had to do a 10-minute interview for that pageant.
Wow.
Yeah, a 10-minute private interview, just like straight judges panel, the usual.
Wow. Okay.
But they ask you, because it's Miss Lumbee, so they're asking you Miss questions, but it's also cultural based questions, things that are going on within the tribe, a lot of different things. So I had to really prepare for that. Like, I don't think I've ever prepared for an interview harder than that.
Yeah.
But it kind of whipped me into shape on how to do a pageant interview. So I felt like that helped me a lot. And I grew so much during that year because I had to make connections with people throughout the state, different tribes, different leaders in the community. I had to speak at different events. I just got used to being in that role.
Yeah.
And then after that, I took a long hiatus because I was exhausted after being Miss Lumbee. That one was, that's a full-time job. It is a lot. I was worn down after I think I got sick after I gave up my title. When my body finally slowed down, it was like I had the flu or something, because it finally caught up with me. But then I went to nursing school. I made a crazy decision to go and get one of the hardest degrees to get. But I love nursing, and it really did push me past my breaking point, I think. Me and my classmates, we always joke and say we trauma bonded during nursing school, because it is like no other experience. You really don't understand it until you're going through it and get to the other side.
Yeah.
But it was only 2 years, but it feels like the longest 2 years of my life.
Right.
But I honestly, thinking back now and how much I love my job and how much I impact people every day, I think I would go back and do it again, even though it was awful and I cried a lot and I was stressed and all the things. But I learned more about time managing because that was like a beast of a degree to get. I that's how I describe it. It really is a beast in itself. And then after that, I kind of got introduced into the USA system, which is kind of how we ended up here. And even at the beginning of my journey within the Miss USA system, I was still a completely different person back then. I thought I had made a lot of growth throughout those other years, but these last 5 years, because I realize I've been competing for this title for 5 years, which is insane to think about. But when I look back at pictures of the girl that competed the very first year, I really don't recognize who that is. I was not healthy, I didn't love who I was and the body I was in. I didn't like my skin. I wasn't happy with what I was seeing in the mirror. I wasn't confident in myself. I was a baby nurse, so I felt incompetent at work, and I was having that imposter syndrome all the time, which I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. And it took me a while to get past that stage. And now I've kind of found my rhythm, and I feel good about who I am, what I have to say, what I have to share. I'm happy with what I see in the mirror. I feel good walking on a stage in a swimsuit and then walking on a stage in a gown. And it takes a lot of confidence, whether you're a size 2 or a 10, to walk on stage in a swimsuit. It doesn't matter the numbers or what the scale is. It really depends on like inside. Are you happy walking on that stage? And I never thought I would get to that point because I was nowhere near it 5 years ago. But now I love swimsuit and I think it's fun. And I pretend I'm like Beyonce or something. But that is it's a lot to look back on, and it's kind of crazy to think about. I need to find pictures of the first year I competed at North Carolina USA to do like a side-by-side contrast, because it's night and day.
How did that last stage of growth, because you said like the first time you competed for North Carolina USA, so we're not talking about when you first entered at 6, because everyone, between the ages of 6 and 8,
growth. I hope.
Yeah, well, yes, you hope so. Although I do know some people who are still 6 years old emotionally. But that period from when you first competed for North Carolina USA and now, did the growth come because of the job? Did it come from something else? Was it a combination of life and the job and just growing up? What caused the?
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, I was in a long-term relationship up until about 2 years ago. I think we're coming up on 2 years. Yeah. And that really tested me. It kind of brought me down mentally.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of young women and girls can relate to that, because sometimes you let people tell you who you are and you kind of forget who you are.
Yeah.
Because they tell you you're one thing and then you start to believe it. Yep. And then it gets in your head and you're second guessing yourself. You're becoming insecure about things you had never been insecure about because things are being brought to your attention. So that mindset, plus I was in a new job where I was fresh. I didn't know anything. And the thing about nursing school and the NICU is that they don't cover the NICU in nursing school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They mostly talk about healthy babies in nursing school,
which you don't get in the NICU. So people who don't know, ICU, it's like intensive care. You don't go to ICU if things are going well.
Exactly. So when you get to the NICU, you are thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And you have to learn everything on the job. So with that, me being a new nurse, me being in a bad headspace mentally already because I was struggling with my self-confidence and insecurities and everything. I was second guessing literally every decision I was making. I was scared to speak up at work. I was intimidated by the doctors, the other nurses. I was in a completely different space. And then something switched. I started to get more confident at work. I started speaking up a little bit. I started saying, no, this is what I think we should do because this is what I feel like my patient needs. And like really putting my foot down on certain things. And I started to feel competent, which is something that all nurses strive towards in their jobs. Once you get to that competent spot, you're like, okay, I like coming to work. It's fun to come to work because I'm not scared every time I walk into work. It's this fear of the unknown when you're a fresh nurse and you don't know what's happening. And then I got out of that relationship and I always joke and say I blew up my entire life. But in the best way possible. I'm on the other side of it and I left the apartment I was in, got a new apartment, moved to a new city, left my job, started travel nursing. I have made new friends. I've had more experiences in the last year and a half than I have in the last 7 altogether. Right. So it's like sometimes just one little thing is holding you back. And once you let it go, you realize there is an entire world out there that's waiting for you, and it's been waiting, but you just had to get to that point.
Do you remember a specific moment in time when you decided, you know what, I don't like this, I'm not happy, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore, and I need to change it, and if not now, then when? Was there a specific moment, or did it happen gradually over a period of time?
It's funny you asked that because I have an exact moment. And
that's what I was going to guess.
Yeah, some people wouldn't think. Of course, there's some buildup there where things are like bottled up and, the usual. But I can pinpoint it back to my birthday in 2024. Yeah, I woke up that morning and I said, this is not the life I want to live. And I want better for myself. And even though it might hurt to make all these changes, I know that 6 months from now, I will thank myself for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because when you said it was a specific moment, I think for most people it works that way. Because like in coaching, we call it getting to that point of threshold where you've just had enough. And getting to that point can take years. But then when you're pushed over the edge, people think everything is like you've blown up your life overnight. But it hasn't been overnight. It's been building. It's like a kettle that's about to boil, and then suddenly everything breaks loose. How old were you when you, if it's not impolite to ask, so you said your birthday in 2024, how old were you when you decided to blow your life up?
I was, let's see, I'm 29 now, so that would be 27.
Making you do math online. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Yeah, 27. And then they say that Saturn returns or something at like 28. Okay. I don't do astrology stuff, so I'm not big into that. But all my friends were trying to tell me that, and they were like, "Listen, this is just your Saturn return. Everything's lining up." And I was like, "What does that even mean? What do you mean by that?" And I said, "I'm just blowing up my life because I feel like it's necessary." And it worked out for the better.
Sometimes you just need a clean slate, don't you? It's like sometimes you can't fix what's broken, and you just need to start over. And I mean, 27 or 29, that's not like it's old, but it's still enough for you to have invested enough time to kind of go, oh, I put so much time into this relationship or to whatever. Maybe I shouldn't leave. But at a certain point, it sounds like you just went, you know what? That's obviously not going well. Let's blow it up. Clean slate so we can start afresh.
Yeah, there's nothing like a clean slate. I mean, really. That's why I say I feel like I've made more progress in the last year and a half than I have in the last 5.
Yeah.
Just because I finally stood up for myself and walked away from a situation that was not serving me anymore.
It sounds like the you now wouldn't recognize the person 2 years ago.
No, we don't know her. I look back on pictures and I'm like, who is that? That smile is not real. That you were faking all the things, all the emotions. I also was not talking to my friends about it, so I really had things bottled up inside.
Ah, right.
Yeah, okay. So it was kind of a lot on my shoulders. So when I look back on pictures of that time period, I'm like, you were carrying so much that you didn't have to.
You know that could have ended, I don't want to go dark here, but you know that could have ended really badly, right? If you're in a
Yeah.
really stressful job, you're in a long-term relationship that's not serving you, you're not sharing with your friends, you're keeping it inside, you're struggling with that, that could have
Listen,
ended really badly.
I know, and I'm thankful it did not. I fixed it before we got any darker,
Yeah.
so thank goodness for that. But that's just a reality. Like, that's just me being completely blunt and honest. I was not doing what I needed to. I know I should have been talking to people, but I was not, because I was embarrassed and didn't want to share too much, because once you tell people things, you can never take it back.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Once you actually say it out loud, like the thing, like if you tell your mom something, you'll never take that back. She's always going to remember it. So
Can
if
I?
somebody messes up and you tell her, that's
Yeah.
it. They're done in her head.
I want to go. I want to go back to your mum when your mum said that was the worst dance performance you ever. Now, has it since come to light that maybe it wasn't the worst one, and she was just saying that to get the best out of you, or was that
No,
actually the worst performance of your life?
I think she stands by it was bad. Like, I think she truly thinks it was bad. I don't think it was that bad. Oh, and I didn't even give you all the background information. I had just had the flu. I was just
Okay.
recovering. I'm like clutching a Gatorade, and she's like, "That's the worst you've ever danced." And I said,
Is it
"I can barely stand up." But
is it
it's okay.
just me, or do mums have this special knack for saying the one thing that will just get under your skin, and then you'll have the blinders on for the next week or month or year? What they just one thing, and it's like, yeah, that wasn't very good, was it? Or it's like, you put on a bit of weight, haven't you? And it's like,
Yep.
it's like,
They
oh,
know
really?
exactly how to push your buttons. They always know what to say every time. I
Okay,
don't know how.
you work as a neonatal nurse, so is it something that you give the mothers when they're born, like the secret things to say to the child in the future to set
You
them
know,
off?
I didn't want to give all my secrets away,
Yeah,
but we do give a handbook out
yeah.
of like, maybe
How
this
to
is
mum.
what you want to say if you want to traumatize your child later in life.
Yeah. I don't know what they give to the dads, but the mums get given a different manual, I'll tell you that much.
Yes, they're way different.
Talk to me about what it took to become a nurse. You said it almost sounded like you were describing a traumatic experience. You said it was
It
2 years.
is.
What is that like? Because I think a lot of people have assumptions, and I also want to go into the fact that you're an Indigenous woman. There's a lot of assumptions out there as to what things could be like or should be like, and some stereotypes are positive, some are negative. What was it like your first day going into nursing school, and what were those 2 years like for yourself?
Funny enough, I have a crazy story about nursing school. I got my acceptance letter the same week that the world shut down for COVID.
Oh, good.
So talk about perfect timing. I'm
Yeah,
really good at that.
yeah,
And I was like, really, is this a joke? What is going on? And I had already heard nursing school was hard, but I was like, am I going to have to teach myself nursing school? Like, I don't know this information. That's why I'm paying to go to school.
yeah,
I need a professor, and I do well with a physical person in front of me
yeah,
in a classroom and a
yeah,
textbook, like old school. I love to highlight my things and write in my book and have my professor and raise my hand and ask questions. Doing that over Zoom for the first year was awful. I only knew my classmates through their little webcam box on the
yeah,
Zoom meeting.
yeah,
And then once we finally met, we all wore masks. So I only knew from their face, like the
yeah,
top of their face.
yeah,
That was it. And then finally, the last semester, we were allowed to take our mask off. And I was like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, wow, look at everybody. This is amazing. The first year, we weren't allowed to step foot in the hospital because it was COVID everywhere.
yeah.
And they were concerned for our safety, of course, as students, which I understand looking back. I get it. We did try to squeeze in all the clinicals we could into the last year. So that was difficult, trying to find different opportunities for us to get outside and do actual skills, because we had been stuck indoors and on Zoom for so long.
Mm,
But I remember every day having to walk in, do our temperature, and then you were allowed to sit down.
right. Yeah.
It was just a different world. And it's like nursing school is already hard, but you add a whole pandemic to it, and twice as hard. And then you hear about horror stories from nurses that are actively working in the field while you're in school trying to become where they are, and you're scared and you're thinking, is this really what I want to do? There's nurses that have bruises on their face from N95 masks, and people are dying, and people are hating their job. People are leaving nursing altogether. Some people left and never came back to nursing.
Yeah.
They just left the field altogether. So it was a scary time for us as students because we did not know what was going to happen. We didn't know how long COVID was going to be, how long it was going to affect us that way. We didn't know if we would get clinical opportunities, which also can hinder you getting a job later on.
Yes. Yeah.
So then that starts to mess with your employment after school. So we were all just scared, honestly. And then on top of learning so much information in such a short period of time. And for some reason, I don't know why they tested this out on us, but they decided to shorten one of our last classes. It was Med-Surg 2, which you're not going to know what that is, but Med-Surg is rough. It's a monster of a class. There's a 1 and a 2. You learn the first one, obviously, first, and then you go to the second part. But for some reason, they said, I think we can do it in 6 weeks.
Okay.
An entire semester's worth in 6 weeks.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, so we were all thinking, why us? Why didn't you save that till the next class? Just let us have the normal full course.
Yeah.
But somehow we made it through. I don't know how. It was stressful. I walked around with my textbook like it was a baby at all times. Every holiday, every family event, everything, I was with my textbook, flipping through, studying, because that's all I did. And then you have to take, after nursing school, you have to take the licensing board, which is the NCLEX. And that is, I laugh at it now, but walking into there, if you've ever walked through TSA, it's kind of like that, but on steroids.
That doesn't sound good.
Oh, no, it's not good. I felt like a criminal when I walked in. I thought I was like, did I do something wrong? She took my glasses off my face. She spun them around on a table. She made me take my hair out of a clip. She felt my hair. It was
what is this? What did they give you a pat down? What's going on here?
That's why I said I felt like a criminal. I didn't know. I was like, no one had prepared me for this. I didn't know she was going to practically strip search me before we got started. But they just want to make sure you don't have any, I guess, glasses that have any technology in it to help you. But I don't know. I was like, I just have to stare at a computer screen for the next hour and a half, and I don't want my eyes to cross.
Yeah.
So that's why I wore my glasses, but I was so freaked out. And it was already stressful taking a test like that because that is the one thing, you're either a nurse or you're not. You pass or fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was crazy. And I had already secured my job for after graduation. Right. So I was planning to work at Duke in the NICU. That's where I trained. And I had already signed an apartment lease. So I went to pick up my keys for my brand new apartment that was empty on the same day I took my NCLEX without knowing the results. I like to always bet on myself. Yes.
That's fair.
Mean, you just kind of have to hope everything's going to work out and have delusional confidence sometimes. But I did. I'm not even going to lie to you. I sat in that apartment and cried after that test because I was I freaked out.
That seems fair. I mean, that seems stressful, almost as stressful as entering, Miss North Carolina, USA. What was the first time? Because if you chose unwittingly to begin this journey in the middle of pandemic when everyone thought the world was going to end, that in hindsight probably wasn't the best time. But probably, in fact, the worst time you could have decided to do that. So what was it like the first time you actually got to be in front of a patient? Because you had to do everything through Zoom, so nothing was actually in person. And then nurses, if it's similar to what we have over here in Australia, they do a lot of the procedures so the doctors don't do it. So they actually have to be the ones doing things like putting drips in and IVs, et cetera, et cetera. But if you've learned everything over Zoom, you haven't had any of that in-person practice. So what was that like the first time when you had to do a procedure?
It was, I'm not even going to lie, it was scary.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, this is actually a person. And this is not a lab with a dummy that I'm practicing on. When I put in my very first IV, I was freaked out, but I honestly had to just like fall back on my professor. The professor I had with me when I first put in an IV for the very first time, I always remember her because she was so supportive that day.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm going to walk with you over here. We were doing a blood drive. And we were doing, it was like a blood drive / COVID vaccines.
Right. Okay.
And like flu vaccines. So we were doing vaccines and IVs to get blood. Yeah. So she walks with me over there, and I had a little table set up, and people would come up and I would stick them, get their blood, and they would move on. And she said, this is Lyndsey. She's a nursing student. She is great at IVs. And I said, yep, sure am. Yep. I sat down and put in my very first IV after she had just told the person, she's great at IVs. She's the best at these. And I said, sometimes that's when it takes some of that delusional confidence. You just kind of have to believe that you can do it and trust the training that you did in the lab to carry over into real life skills. So I wasn't unfamiliar with patient care just because I was a nursing assistant before I went to nursing school.
Right. Okay.
So I'm very comfortable with talking to patients, explaining what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Although now I don't really, my patients don't understand what I'm talking about because they're babies. But everyone jokes at work and says I still talk to my patients all the time. And I do have full-on conversations with my babies. I can't help it.
Well, I mean, no judgment
they're still patients.
because, well, yeah, but all of you also talk to all your dogs, and I talk to my cat all the time, and it's not like my dog or cat understand me and don't tell me they do. Okay, I know people always want to fight me on the fact, no, my dog really understands. No, your dog. I think it's so clever what your professor said, because if she says she's great at, putting in IVs or whatever, that's much better.
The patient wasn't scared.
No, exactly. What the patient doesn't want to hear is, this is Lyndsey. She's never done an IV before. That's what you don't want to hear, right?
And that's why she walked me over there and she said, I know exactly what to say. You got it. She said, I'm going to make them relax and then you'll be relaxed. Because if the patient's freaking out, it's going to make it 10 times harder to get the IV or anything for that matter. Yeah.
And there's a lot of scared people in the healthcare system, and, deservedly so, especially around the COVID period. If you were giving birth or you're an elderly patient around that time, it would have been absolutely horrific.
A lot of people were frightened.
How important is it? How much do you feel you've grown emotionally through your nursing journey?
I think I'm much more in control of my emotions than I ever was before. I kind of have to be the calm in the storm when it comes to nursing, because the environment that I work in can get a little chaotic. And of course, emotions are high because we're talking about people's children. So, and they're precious, precious lives. They haven't done anything wrong. They're fragile. They're just here. They didn't ask for this. And we have to do what's best for them. And sometimes making those decisions is very difficult for parents. So I kind of have to be that calm for them and a shoulder to lean on in difficult times. And sometimes I'm like a translator, because the doctor will say something and the parents look at me and they're like, what was that? And then I kind of have to break it down in normal non-medical terms so that they aren't scared, because of course they're scared. Their baby is in the hospital and there's the fear of the unknown. They don't know what the next day looks like. And sometimes it's an hour by hour basis. Like we're just playing it by ear every single hour.
How do you decompress, given what you said previously when you were in a less healthy space and you weren't telling anyone what was going on and the smiles were fake and everything was kind of burning down around you and you're just going, no, everything's fine. How do you go now? You're in such a high stress environment. You've also decided to put yourself in another stressful environment, which is pageants. And then you work night shift. So then you're also nocturnal. You're like Batman. How do you take care of the mental health side of you? I know you mentioned this in terms of working with and maybe this is the time to go into I think you called it a talking circle. Maybe that's why I started. I don't know, but how do you decompress, or how do you deal with your mental health? And I want to really go into this with you, because I've had horrible mental health in the past. I wrote a book about it. I've been public about it. I was suicidal twice, so I know what that's like. But to me, it feels different, because you had already previously been in not such a good place. You blew up your life, which ended up you're now better, but you're also working with scared parents, which is probably even worse than dealing with scared patients themselves, is parents who don't know what's going on with their child. How do you take care of yourself mentally?
I really cling on nowadays to my friends and coworkers. I think the coworkers is especially important, especially because the area I work in. And it's really difficult to explain what is happening within those four walls to someone that does not actively work in it and has experienced the same things. So, for example, I can give you some stories, but a lot of my stories tend to lean a little bit more sad. I do have some happy stories, but one of the most, I call it the most traumatic shift of my life thus far. I don't know what the future holds for me, but this one right here stuck with me. I still think about it. I don't think a day goes by that I don't think about it. I came in and there was a very small premature baby, and he was very critically ill. And that is putting it lightly. Fast forward I got into my shift around 6:45 that morning. By 12 o'clock, we were making the phone call to his mom that she needs to get here because he's not going to make it. And that, having to do that is, I feel it's not something a normal person should have to deal with. But then I have to think about, this parent is obviously, this is way worse for them than it is for me.
Yeah.
Because it's happening to them personally, even though I am here caring for that child and living through the moment also. It turned out to be, we worked on the child for 20 minutes in a code event. It was unsuccessful and we lost him at the end of it. The mom did not make it in time. And that sits with me still to this day. And that is hard. It's a hard reality that we have to face sometimes working in the NICU. But in that moment, in that code, I remember kind of like removing myself from the situation. It was kind of like an outer body experience. Because you just have to be calm. You have to be coherent, competent, so that you can give the best care that you possibly can in those minutes, because that's what really counts. And then I remember all my friends, my coworkers, they're beyond coworkers at that point. That's family standing behind me. Because when you bond like that, it's a different kind of bond. So they've seen me at my absolute worst, but they're standing back there. They're also running the code with me. And then it finally ends and I come back into my body and realize what had just happened. And I look at the situation and I break down in tears. And one of my friends comes and grabs me. She hugs me and she walks me over to the other side of the room. And she's like, "You don't have to clean this up. We got you. We got you. Because you just did all that. You don't have to." And then she said, "Let's go take a walk." And that's, and sometimes that's really what you need, to just remove yourself from the situation.
100%.
Go take a walk with somebody that understands and has been in your shoes and has been there mentally with you, because it's one of the hardest things to overcome, I think, watching something like that happen. And then later on that day, after I had calmed down a little bit, then my other friends, they were like, "What do you want? Coffee, lunch, let's go sit." So they went and got me a coffee. We went and sat outside to get some fresh air, to get out of the hospital. And it's really just like sitting and talking with them. And they were like, "Do you want to talk, or do you just want to sit here in quiet?" And sometimes you want to talk and decompress and let it out, but then sometimes you just need a moment of silence with people that love you and understand your situation. So that's really, I really do have to fall back on my coworkers, and I call them coworkers, but like I said, they're really family at this point. And then when I finally made it past that, I really spend a lot of time in the gym and on walks. I will walk for hours. And I think people probably think I'm crazy around my apartment because they're like, that girl is out there again. What is wrong with her? But I promise you, it makes me feel 10,000 times better after I'm on a walk. I can walk for an hour and it feels like 5 minutes sometimes because my mind is just racing and I'm like reflecting, going through all the thoughts, the emotions, listening to a podcast or music, or sometimes I walk in silence because my brain is just that overloaded. And that usually makes me feel a whole lot better. So those are my go-tos, just relying on other people and talking, or just sitting and being there, and then walking and getting active.
Yeah, I say never underestimate the curative powers of a walk, especially if it's in sunshine, and doing it in silence. I think so. No music, no nothing, and just so you can be alone with your thoughts and just process. I love what you said about your friends being cognizant of the fact that sometimes they just need to be there and not say anything, because sometimes you don't want to talk about it, and sometimes you do, and both are okay. I want to ask you your opinion on nature versus nurture, because when you are in such a high stress environment, and that's putting it mildly, my experience has been some people, they just can't be in those environments. When the what hits the fan, everything is about themselves. They start having the panic attack. They start going, oh my God, this, and when you're in an environment such as the one you're in, I don't think you can afford to be like that, because your attention needs to be on the patient. And I don't know, I'll be fascinated to hear your thoughts on this. Are there some people who you think are just cut out to deal with those incredibly stressful environments, like in the NICU, in the ICU, in emergency situations, fire, things like that? Do you think there are some people who are just cut out for it and there are some who are not? Or do you feel there's some way that you can actually learn how to be calm under the most extreme pressures?
I don't know. That's a difficult one, I think. I think maybe a little bit of both could play into it. I honestly, looking back, I'm trying to think how in the world I ended up, in the NICU and being okay with that. Because I don't think anybody ever grows up and they're like, I want to put myself in the most stressful environment ever.
No.
And that's where I'm going to be, and I'm going to be happy there. Like, I don't think as little kids we were like, oh yeah, I want to work in that and stress myself out every day. And so I'm trying to think. I don't know. I've always kind of put myself in stressful situations to make myself uncomfortable. I feel like that's when you grow as a person, is putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions. And then you start to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's pretty much the life of the NICU.
Yeah.
So it kind of like transfers over to that. So I guess I was born with it. I know a lot of people, I've seen people come through the NICU as employees, as nurses. And they get there and they think they're going to love it.
Yeah.
And they realize once they start working, it's just not for them. And that is the beauty of nursing, is that there's something for everybody. I think there's always a specialty or something that you like, your niche. You just have to find it. I just got very lucky with finding mine straight out of school. But I had an inkling that that's what I wanted to do, because I had an experience with my cousin, and she had an infant in the NICU, unfortunately, and he passed away. And that was my first experience with any kind of NICU at all. But I was fascinated with the nurses and the compassion and empathy and how much care they put into her and her husband and the baby. And I was like, I want to do that for other people. I just felt a pull towards it. Even though it's a very sad situation, it led me to the NICU. And now I've met so many families and touched people. I mean, I have a family that still updates me weekly with pictures of a little girl that I took care of for 7 months, and she's going to turn 3 this September. which I call her my greatest accomplishment. I think she is a miracle, and everything she does, I'm like, wow, I'm amazed. She could be walking and I'm like, that's amazing. I love it. I just love to see her do anything, but she's thriving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I never would have had that experience, I never would have found the NICU and realized that's what I wanted to do. But yeah, so I guess I was born with it a little bit. And I
Sure.
kind of just refined it and figured out my own way of doing things in that high stress environment.
Sure. It's not an easy question. It sounds to me like you really felt like you had been pulled towards this calling. And I think sometimes when your purpose or your pull is strong enough, you'll figure out anything. I think
Yeah.
that's the way these things go. I'm surprised that you said 2 weeks ago you had a freak out about pageants, because I would have thought after living what you live through on a daily basis, pageants would be easy. No, I mean, it's a dress. It's not that whatever. My dress didn't turn up. Whatever. I have another one. Why did that stress you out when you deal with such stressful situations on your in the daily?
I have I'll tell you what triggered it. I was on vacation with my friends and I felt guilty for not doing any kind of pageant prep work.
Oh, yeah. All right. That's
and that sent me into a spiral. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared, but really I've been preparing, and I'm always prepared. It's just something made me feel guilty about being on vacation. That's what I get for having too much fun, I guess.
Yeah. God forbid you actually have a life and, you enjoy yourself for 5 minutes. No. I have to be doing something to punish myself and to stress me out. Otherwise, I'm not working hard enough. It doesn't always have to be like that, guys. I know another very important part in what we read out in the bio was your being an Indigenous woman, and you mentioned the talking circles. I don't want anyone to think I know anything about what being Indigenous means in your country. We have some very big, maybe parallel situations over here with our Indigenous community here in Australia. But why don't we start with, why is that so important to you, the identity?
It is, it's shaped who I am. From a very young age, I was thrown into my culture and kind of immersed into it. And I love my culture, but the biggest thing about my tribe specifically is community. I think that is one of the main aspects, and that's like our driving force is community-based everything. The community stands behind each other. So me competing in this pageant, they're behind me 1,000%. And it's a tribe full of, we're over 60,000 people.
Wow. Okay.
It's a big tribe. So I have a lot of people behind me rooting for me, and they're rooting for me not because they know my name or they know who I am, but because we're tied together with that community. It's just something very special. And I always say, I don't live at home currently, back where my family is. But I always say when I start to head that way on the road, I can feel there's like a shift in the air once I hit those county lines and I'm back in Robeson County where I call home. It's just something really special. And we actually have a homecoming right after. It's the weekend after I compete. So it's a yearly celebration. It usually falls around July 4th by chance. And we get together. Everybody comes home for the weekend. So homecoming, it's like a 2-week celebration. We have parades and pageants and festivals and food and everything. And you see all these people you haven't seen in years. It's catching up with your friends. It's catching up with elders that you haven't talked to in a long time. Just being in the culture and in the community again.
I think your earpiece has just died out. Can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Sorry. I knew that was going to happen. I had a bad feeling. These headphones are not the best, but it's the best I got.
No, it's all good. Sometimes
the
headphones dying is the best thing that can happen in an interview. Can you paint the picture again as someone who knows nothing about it? When young people are born, I don't even know if the verbiage is born into the tribe, but how early on does being in a part of this tribe come into your life? Is it something that enters your life very early on? Like, you mentioned you started dance at the age of 2. Are we talking at that age, or is it more like later on when you become a teenager or you become an adult?
I think it really depends on the family. Some people are more, I don't know the best way to say it, but some people are more, I guess, immersed into the culture, that cultural side rather than the modern aspect of, like, we
Sure.
always say it's like walking in two worlds. Like, I have a little bit of my ancestors, but I'm also in the modern world living that life.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the family. I was lucky that my parents and my grandparents wanted me involved so that I could learn about my people and where I come from, who I am, the importance of the history of my family, all of that. So I was very lucky to be introduced to it very young. They do culture classes every
Right.
week. So I
Yeah.
have very early memories of being dropped off at culture class every single week, and learning different history and culture about the tribe, which was always great because it was other kids from the community. So
Yeah.
then we all kind of grew up together. So yeah, it really just depends on the family, I think.
Sure.
I would like, if I have a family one day, hopefully, I would like my kids to be immediately introduced into all the cultural side because I want them to know their history. Because my tribe, personally, we don't have, our language was lost.
Okay.
So most of our history that is passed down is oral history and
Yeah.
storytelling. So
Yeah.
it's important for kids to sit down and talk with their elders and hear those stories and get that knowledge because that's really the only way it's being passed down.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things with culture class. So my parents made sure that I was there and involved and listening to our elders and even sitting with my elders in my family, just sitting and listening to them talk. It's like having a little piece of history and culture there. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
It's interesting. There's a parallel with our Indigenous people over here. I have a friend who runs an organization. I think it's a non-for-profit, and they specifically help Indigenous peoples pass down their culture and their
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and their story, precisely because it can't be written down. It's something that needs to be passed on orally. So what they've started doing is, I don't know if it's video recordings, but working out some way of being able to encapsulate that so that it's never lost into the sands of time. Because if only one elder, let's say, knows it and hasn't been able to pass it on, then if something happens to that elder, that story is lost forever because it can't, for whatever reason, it can't be written down. So that sounds like quite similar to what you were just saying there.
Yeah, we really heavily rely on storytelling and passing down things in that way. Um, so I maybe that's why I'm a yapper. Maybe we all like to talk a little bit too much. So maybe that's where some of that comes into play. Maybe I tell a little too many stories, but that's just what I know.
It's good for pageant interview if you can keep it under 3 minutes anyway. Um, which it might be more of a challenge for you than actually talking in the first place. Tell me more. Is it the talking circles?
Yes,
Tell me
yes.
more about that.
Okay, so it is an um, indigenous practice that's been around for a very long time. It's been used as like conflict resolution, um, just to, you pretty much kind of sit, I mean, you sit in a circle, exactly what it says.
Yeah,
And there is a conductor of the talking circle. So they usually sit right here. So when I conduct the talking circles, I sit at the head of it, but I sit at the same level as everybody because I want everybody to feel we're on the same level and
yeah,
that no one is above anyone else.
yeah,
And the beauty of the talking circle is you really don't need a lot of instruments to get it done. You need people, a willingness to participate, and a talking stick. And the talking stick is something that's passed around the circle. And when you have that in your hand, you're allowed to speak.
yeah,
So it's to be respectful of everybody's time and their voice, so that if I have the stick, no one's allowed to talk unless because it's my turn, and then we pass it around and everyone gets their time. But I've kind of used it in different areas. So
Yeah.
at dance studios, in classrooms with different teachers
Yeah.
that have allowed me to come. I find that it works best when because I enjoy doing it with young people and adolescents.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's lacking in that age group as a safe place to really explore those emotions that you're feeling, where no one's going to judge you and no one's going to talk about it afterwards. And I'm listening to you. I'm all ears. So I like to be that person for them, but I have found in doing them that sometimes it works better if you have one gender at a time.
Right.
Because something about the guys and the girls together, someone is making a joke and thinks it's funny, or someone's not taking it seriously, or we run into the issue of, where they're preteen, so they think that they have to be too cool for everything, or they don't want to seem not cool to their peers. And sometimes we think that sharing our feelings is not cool. So that I also have to talk to them about that. And I'm like, listen, it is okay to talk about your feelings, and it's necessary sometimes, because I've been in that place where I didn't talk about my feelings, so I know how that feels. So I like to use it as a tool now in those spaces, but not just as an intervention as it was used like in conflict resolution before things build up. I like to use it as a prevention technique.
Yeah. I think I've seen the concept maybe in a movie or a documentary somewhere, and especially in this day and age, I love it for the fact that literally you can only talk when you have the stick, and the other times you need to shut up and listen. Because I think we've given too much credence to this. I have a voice, let me use it. Yes, but you also have two ears and one mouth. And that ratio is for a certain reason, right? And I think a lot of are better at opening their mouth than opening their ears and opening their heart, more to the point. And I worked at an all-girls school, and I worked with young boys as well. And I can certainly say, yes, you probably not separate them all the time, but the energy will be very different, especially like teenage boys. They probably don't ever want to talk about their feelings because
they are too cool to talk to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's not even just young boys. That's probably men in general. That's exactly why men's mental health is actually in many ways behind women's mental health, because men won't talk about their feelings because that's seen as weak. Question: if everything goes your way in a couple of weeks' time, right, and you have the best thing ever to celebrate at the homecoming for your tribe, and then you're going to Miami, and let's put this out there that things go well again at that time, what part would being Indigenous play in your journey moving forward and your plans moving forward? Because I got to imagine it's integrated like very intimately. It's not just a talking point somewhere.
Yeah, I think it plays a part in every aspect, even down to some of the things I'm wearing. I always have the Indigenous community in my mind. When I go into interview, I like to wear a prayer bundle, which is a bundle that was given to me. This one has been in my possession for years. I don't even remember what year it was given to me, but I always put it on my person somewhere. And I have it. It's just a little bundle of herbs like sage, and it's tied up nicely, and someone prayed over it, blessed me with it, and they gave it to me. And I always wear it because for some reason, when I put it on, it just gives me a sense of peace. And a little bit connection of home wherever I am. I keep them in random bags. So that's like a little piece that goes with me into interview, just so I feel good. And I always have a part of my culture with me. And then if I was to win in a week, I would be the very first Indigenous woman to hold the title of Miss North Carolina USA. And there have been Indigenous women to compete at Miss USA before, but never representing North Carolina. And there's never been an Indigenous woman to win Miss USA. And I think representation is everything in this organization. And if that old saying, if you can't see her, how do you think you could be her?
Mm.
So I want to be the very first to do it and to push those boundaries and to encourage people to push past me, because that's always my goal. I want someone to one up me always. I
Yeah.
want to achieve my goals and break that glass ceiling for them, but I want you to keep going, because that's
Yeah.
why I do what I do. Because there's other Indigenous women and girls and boys watching me, seeing me
Yeah.
go after my dreams so fiercely and having no regrets in the process. And I want them to see themselves within me and really go after those crazy goals they never thought they could achieve. So I want to bring all of that to Miss USA, and I think that it would also build that organization. I
Yeah.
with Indigenous women, seeing another Indigenous woman go and do well and succeed and talk about her community and how far it's brought her and how much they're backing her and all the support she has at home. I think it would speak volumes to all those Indigenous women across the country, and maybe encourage them to
Yeah.
try out their state competition. And
Yeah.
other women in North Carolina, they'll see me and think, well, if she could do it, then maybe I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah. 100%. It's times are changing in the pageant world, and I think in many cases it's about time. Lyndsey, I've kept you on long enough to flat your ear pods, so
I'm so
just
sorry. They're terrible. I'm sorry. It's such a good conversation. The earbuds are annoying. I'm so
no,
sorry.
no, it's all good. I just don't want to keep you on forever and a day, and your legs go to sleep, and you're not able to get up. So just before we move to the final 10, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I guess I'll give a shout out to my Lumbee tribe, because they really are, at the end of the day, my biggest supporters. I wouldn't be who I am without the tribe. And also my friends, family, Morgan Fitness, always. And my coaches, interview coaches, they know who they are. There's plenty of them. There's so many people that have poured into me over the years. And I'm just thankful that we've gotten to this point, and I'm thankful for the circle that surrounds me, because I know they have me 110%.
Final 10 questions.
Oh
Number
gosh.
1, what is your favorite word?
Oh no. Oh God. Oh God, you got me. I'm looking at things around my apartment. It's not going to help. Um, you know what? Being an adult that pays bills, my favorite word is payday. I love that. That's what we're going to go with, because the bills come fast and they never stop.
It's amazing to me how you guys can deal with the NICU, you can deal with on-stage wardrobe malfunctions, but ask you what's your favorite word, and it just sends you into this horrific downward spiral.
I have no idea. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I've never thought about my favorite word, but now I'm going to be thinking about it.
Okay, well, you're not going to enjoy the rest of this. So number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Moist.
Okay.
Yeah, not a fan.
In life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
Ooh. When I wake up and the weather is perfect.
Mm.
I think a perfect day starts off with good weather. And when I wake up and see sunshine and I have nothing on my schedule that day and I can just be outside, perfect. That gets me excited.
Okay, but hang on. You just said you were on holiday and you freaked out because you had nothing to do. So are you sure that you like it's like
Now, that
this?
would be if I'm not preparing for anything. Okay? If I'm not in the weeds of preparing.
Okay,
I'm in the trenches. Yeah.
okay. Because otherwise it sounds like you had that and then you freaked out. Okay, so that's what turns you on. What about what turns you off?
Traffic.
That's fair.
Or I also don't like negative people. Someone that is always finding negatives in every single thing, and they always have a negative thing to say about everything. Like, that person, you're like, oh, I'm going to go visit New York. And they're like, oh, it's full of trash. what? I didn't ask you for that. That turns me off very quickly.
What sound or noise do you love?
This is very niche to me, but I love the sound of a crisp tap shoe on the ground.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's very niche to me, but it just itches the brain just right.
What sound or noise do you hate?
I hate alarms at work. The monitors. I hear them in my sleep. They're awful. I can hear them in the drive home, and I'm not even near the hospital. It just follows me.
Yeah, I can only imagine. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Ooh, I've always said if I could snap my fingers and be anywhere in any moment, because if you knew the amount of miles that were on my car, I'm embarrassed to say, and I won't. I'll save you from that. But that's why I do a lot of traveling and a lot of driving. So if I could snap my fingers, I would love that.
What job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Ooh, I would like marine biology and to study sharks. I'm fascinated with sharks.
That seems
very random fun fact.
Yep. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Oh, oh gosh. What is something that would be awful? That's what I'm trying to think. I'm like, what would I wake up and be like, I can't go to work today? Oh, you know what? Because I'm such a science person, science and math, an English professor. Absolutely not. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. I wasn't a huge fan of English when I was in school. I was more a science and math person too, and the sound of Shakespeare still gives me nightmares. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Everybody's waiting for you inside. That's what I want to hear. I would love that. All my family that's going on, I would love that.
Well, Lyndsey, it's been a minute. Thank you so much for coming on.
Wow, time flies.
Well, not for your headbuds, but yes, for us it did.
Not. But for us it did. We won't talk about those. So sorry. Again.
It's all good. But thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck in a week and a bit's time. I mean, selfishly, if and when you win, I'll see you in Miami for the 75th anniversary. But I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you're a competitive pageant girl and you're after some high-performance pageant coaching, make sure to come and check us out at thepageantproject.com, where you can start your journey for free. In the meantime, follow us on all our socials at The Pageant Project. Speak to you next time.